Why do some people secretly cheer for Amy Dunne, even as she lies, manipulates, and kills? Today, we're exploring the uncomfortable truth about why audiences root for Gone Girl's most unforgivable villain. Gone Girl follows Nick and Amy Dunne's crumbling marriage. On their 5th anniversary, Amy disappears, leaving behind a staged crime scene that points to Nick as her murderer. But Amy isn't dead. She's orchestrated an elaborate revenge plot to frame her cheating husband for her murder and send him to death row. When things go awry, she kills her wealthy ex-boyfriend Desi, frames him as her captor and rapist, and returns home a hero. The twist? Amy impregnates herself with Nick's stored sperm to trap him in their marriage forever, forcing him to play the devoted husband while she controls every aspect of their lives. What makes Amy so magnetic is her absolute mastery over reality itself. She doesn't just commit crimes, she bends narratives, manipulates evidence, and choreographs public perception with surgical precision. While most of us feel powerless against life's chaos, Amy demonstrates what total control looks like. She anticipates Nick's every move, plants evidence only he would find, and engineers the media's emotional reactions with manufactured clues about abuse, pregnancy, and infidelity. This control extends beyond legal manipulation into psychological warfare. She tortures Nick personally by making their anniversary treasure hunt a tour of his betrayal, places him at crime scenes where police will find him, and preempts his every instinct. There's something darkly aspirational about someone who refuses to be a victim of circumstance and instead becomes the architect of her own revenge. For audiences tired of feeling powerless, whether in relationships, careers, or life, Amy embodies a fantasy of agency taken to its extreme. She doesn't accept the hand she's dealt, she reshuffles the entire deck. Amy taps into a primal revenge fantasy that resonates especially with audiences who've experienced betrayal. Nick's descent into neglect and infidelity is gradual and infuriating. He moves Amy away from everything she knows, forces her to adapt to his life, and cheats on her while she funds their existence. His transgressions, while not deserving of Amy's response, are painfully common. The divided reaction to Amy speaks to our feelings about female rage, a notably quiet kind of anger that society expects women to suppress. Amy's extreme reaction calls attention to how often we downplay everyday betrayals in relationships. She treats Nick's neglect and infidelity as crimes deserving vengeance, and there's catharsis in watching someone refuse to suffer in silence. Compare Amy to other revenge-driven anti-heroes. Tyler Durden destroys corporate America's dehumanizing systems in Fight Club. Villanelle in Killing Eve kills with artistic flair against patriarchal power structures. And Cersei Lannister ruthlessly eliminates those who've wronged her family. All channel justified anger into unjustifiable actions. And we watch, captivated. Amy shares DNA with our most beloved anti-heroes, but with a crucial difference. She's a woman. When Joker orchestrates chaos or Villanelle assassinates targets, audiences analyze their psychological complexity and tragic backstories. But when Amy does the same, she's more likely to be dismissed as simply crazy. As author Gillian Flynn argues, the idea that a woman character can't or shouldn't be evil is sexist in itself. To decry Amy as anti-feminist just because she does bad things relies on old-fashioned gender stereotypes. Amy is brilliant, calculating, and utterly committed to her goals. She demonstrates strengths like creativity, critical thinking, and self-regulation that she weaponizes with devastating effectiveness. There's genuine catharsis in watching Amy refuse to keep up the feminine mask that lets women curb their reactions to avoid being labeled hysterical. She's unnervingly good at emotional detachment, and that cold competence is exactly what allows her to succeed where more likable characters might fail. Yet we must acknowledge the elephant in the room. Amy commits genuinely evil acts. She falsely accuses men of rape and abuse, exploiting society's instinct to protect women to destroy lives. She murders an innocent man who loved her. She traps Nick in a prison of her own making, using an unwanted pregnancy as leverage. The film has been criticized for playing into dangerous tropes. The manipulative wife who traps her husband with pregnancy. The woman who makes false allegations of sexual assault. These aren't abstract concerns. They're real issues that harm real victims when weaponized by stories that make them seem commonplace. So why do we root for her anyway? Perhaps because Amy provides the ultimate revenge fantasy against entitled men, topped off with an infectious, albeit toxic, self-regard that feels empowering in a culture that tells women to diminish themselves. Or maybe it's simpler. We're drawn to her the same way we're drawn to true crime, with all its macabre magnetism. The question, should we root for Amy, might be the wrong one. Amy was never meant to be likable or someone people should emulate. She's a vector for larger commentary about the pressures and struggles that molded her into a monster, a reflection of dark truths many want to ignore. As Gillian Flynn says, women have spent so many years girl-powering themselves that we've left no room to acknowledge our dark sides. But dark sides are important and should be nurtured like nasty black orchids. Amy gives permission to explore that darkness safely through fiction. The fact that some viewers cheer for Amy despite her unforgivable crimes reveals something profound about our culture's gender dynamics, our relationship with control and powerlessness, and our complicated feelings about revenge. She shows us how terrifying yet liberating it can be to watch someone stop pretending and let their rage fully bloom. Amy Dunne remains cinema's most disturbing villain because she forces us to confront an uncomfortable question. If we had her intelligence, her resources, and her complete absence of conscience, would we really behave any differently? The answer we don't want to admit might be exactly why we can't look away. This is Ladies First, watching women in movies. Here, we empower women by reviewing and discussing films that highlight their stories, struggles, and achievements. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.